What's up guys, my name is Rising and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where we go deep into all of the important stats for all of the guns in COD Mobile's multiplayer, and towards the end I provide some recommended class setups that works the best for you. And as per request, today we're covering a weapon which actually received a handful of buffs a couple seasons back. However, somehow it slipped off my head and I forgot to cover it that time. So I thought this is the perfect time now since we're anyways covering a lot of LMGs this season, and we'll also cover a couple of the buffed ones next season. And today we've got an interesting one, perhaps the most unique one in its class, the Dingo light machine gun. First appeared in Black Ops 3, the Dingo is a bullpup light machine gun chambered in the fictional 549x39 caliber. The reason why it is so unique is because it shares almost no resemblance with a typical light machine gun, and instead it performs along the lines of a heavy assault rifle, as we'll see in the rest of the video. In case you forgot what the buffs were, firstly it received a few meters increment to its maximum and medium damage ranges, as well as few of its attachments received buffs to their attributes. For further info, you can check my Season 11 patch notes analysis video where I have covered every single adjustment in great details. But coming back to the current video, first let us look at its damage profile. And the Dingo will be a 4-shot kill anywhere in the body in its maximum damage range, which is 21 meters in this case. You can also stretch to its medium damage range if you hit torso up. Beyond that, it'll maintain a 5-shot kill as long as you don't hit the legs. However, the gun doesn't have good head multipliers, meaning you will require 2 headshots up close to reduce it to a 3-shot kill. And that's the only way if you want to get a 3-shot with the Dingo, which means it cannot hold on its own against SMGs at close ranges, which is a major drawback on this weapon. It fires at 723 rounds per minute, which is identical to the Maddox and the upcoming Lockman 5.56. This means your base 4-shot time to kill will be 249 milliseconds, which isn't bad by any means, but it is a bit slow if you compare it with other competitive weapons in the game. You also get a 332 millisecond 5-shot time to kill, which again isn't terrible, but falls behind other meta options. Moving on to bullet velocity, this is quite fast at 1,000 meters per second. However, our ranges aren't good at all for an LMG and has perhaps one of the worst range profiles in its class. You can, however, stretch its 5-shot range as long as you're hitting above the waist, but in that case we also have to factor in its recoil, which will come in a little bit. The Dingo has some interesting barrel attachments, and as you can see, the Marksman barrel increases all of our ranges by a great 35%, however it destroys all of our mobility values. The Black Ops barrel improves our ranges by 20% with no downside, so this might look like a better option. However, the Steel Rain barrel also improves our bullet velocity by 10% on top of a 20% boost to our ranges. However, most importantly, it also improves our rate of fire to 769 rounds per minute, which impacts all of our time to kill values across all ranges, and 234 milliseconds is now much more along the lines of a competitive time to kill. This alone makes it a crutch attachment on this weapon. However, there are some very serious recoil penalties to this barrel, which we'll see very shortly. Moving on to handling, both our aim down sight as well as sprint to fire times are the second fastest in its class, just behind the UL 736. And we also see a very similar trend to its mobility values, which are again very fast for an LMG. And this is the most unique aspect of this weapon, which I was talking about during the intro. By default, these values are more along the lines of a heavy assault rifle. It's not quite near the AR averages, but it's almost up there. This indicates that you can play very aggressively with the Dingo and makes it very unique out of all the other weapons in its class. Moving on to accuracy, its bullet spread is fine for the ranges you're generally going to be challenging your encounters. It is a bit on the weaker side for LMGs, but again, all the LMGs have good BSA by default, and the Dingo isn't an outlier here. However, its hipfire spread is tied with many other LMGs, being the worst in its class, and LMGs already have a very bad hipfire spread. So in your best interest, you don't want to be hipfiring with the Dingo unless in a panic situation. Its hit flinch also isn't the worst, but it falls below LMG average. And finally, for its bullet impact, it is standard. And now for its recoil. This is the biggest drawback of this weapon, and this is where it limits all of its ranged potential. As you can see, the climb is extremely high and also has a sharp cut to the right after the first 6 shots. But the base recoil isn't so important here, as we're using that steel rain barrel, which also has a heavy recoil penalty attached to it. And if we use the steel rain barrel, well, it worsens the entire pattern furthermore. Not only this has a high magnitude of recoil, it also suffers from sudden horizontal shifts while firing continuously. In my eyes at least, this is definitely the least accurate LMG in the game, and this alone makes long-range encounters pretty much impossible. So you really need to lean heavily towards recoil control while building this weapon if you want to use it comfortably. As for magazine capacity, this is 80 rounds with 320 in reserve. However, the Dingo has the fastest reload time in its class at 1.8 seconds for its tactical reload and 2.64 seconds while empty. And with such a high magazine capacity, this is excellent to have on this weapon. Now, if you want, you can reduce it with sleight of hand to 1.53 seconds, but this isn't necessary on this weapon at all in my opinion. We also have access to a number of interesting magazine attachments, where you can either use the large extended Mag B to increase your magazine capacity to 100 rounds with a slight increment to your reload time and aim down sight time. Or you can use the Black Ops Mag or the Steel Rain Mag to increase both your magazine size as well as reload time, but with a harsher reduction to your ADS speed. There's also the light reload, which reduces our ADS time, reload time, and also improves our movement speed, but you're just left with 40 rounds in your magazine. Note that in the attributes, it actually says that it reduces our mag capacity by 40, but instead it's reduced by 60. Could be a bug, but in general, you don't really need more mobility to this weapon, as the base stats of this weapon is already much above LMG standard, as we discussed earlier. And finally, for material penetration, the Dingo is the only LMG in the game that has assault rifle levels of penetration, and even with FMJ, it doesn't help too much, so you're better off treating the gun more like an assault rifle. But with that, we're done with all the base stats of the Dingo, as well as its unique barrel and magazine attachments. And now's the time to see how to build this weapon. It is fairly simple to build this gun in particular, as we already have a crutch barrel attachment, and at the same time, we need to focus heavily on recoil stabilization. For this reason, there's only one possible way to build this gun effectively. We have the Black Ops suppressor, as it got a horizontal recoil reduction buff, Steel Rain Barrel, as that's a mandatory attachment on this weapon, Black Ops stock for improved overall mobility, Steel Rain foregrip for further recoil reduction, and finally the Steel Rain quick draw for ADS speed and flinch resistance. With this build, we have a net 10% boost to our ranges, which makes our effective range around 32 meters. Although this is not at all a good range for an LMG, but as long as you're treating it as an assault rifle, you'll be fine within those ranges. All of our handling and mobility stats are also greatly improved and are now along the lines of an assault rifle, which is perfect for the purpose you're going to use it. However, the most crucial part, that is the recoil, is now greatly improved, and now it has far less horizontal shift, and you can get it under control if you practice a couple times with it. In saying so, it still has a very high magnitude of recoil, and there's no attachment that can reduce it further, so you should be very aware of its behavior while using the Dingo. Now, there's actually another crazy way of building the Dingo by stacking all attachments that contribute towards mobility and use it like an SMG. But in that case, you have to drop the Steel Rain Barrel, which will in turn increase our time to kill. So in that scenario, I'm way better using an actual SMG instead and get all the benefits from it rather than using a setup of that sort. But with that, that's finally going to wrap it up on the gun guide for the Dingo LMG. As for my thoughts on it, I really like the way it stands out from the other LMGs. Because normally when you hear the word LMG, you're probably going to think of a slow weapon with good accuracy and a ton of bullets at your disposal. But the Dingo breaks all those laws and has a unique place out of all of them. But at the same time, a weapon being unique doesn't mean it can perform on par with other top-tier weapons. The Dingo cannot hold up on its own up close by not able to 3-shot due to its low head multipliers, and at the same time it struggles hard to perform at those longer ranges due to its high recoil. So in my eyes at least, it is safe put it as a mid-tier option which doesn't specialize in anything apart from its handling and mobility. You could have focused only on mobility, but in that case you'll lose out on time to kill, which isn't great. But of course, those were just my thoughts, and now I'd love to hear what you guys think of the Dingo. Do you feel it is quite fun using if you're bored and consider it an underrated option, or you're better off using something else altogether that has a much better ease of use? Just let all those thoughts in the comment section down below. In case you've missed any of my previous gun guides, I'll leave the links to the playlists in the description of this video. If you want builds for all the weapons, then join my Discord server where you can access all of them and also be a part of the community. And if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to see future content and leave a like on this video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.